In the realm of social finesse, adept conversationalists possess a set of subtle yet key secrets. These are keys to unlocking the art of small talk with finesse and ease. The first being embracing curiosity. Curiosity, which is often looked at as a childhood trait, is sadly something that people just tend to leave behind as they transition into adulthood. Back when I struggled with small talk, I would approach conversations like a game of chess, pre-planning topics, rehearsing potential dialogues in my mind, and inevitably stressing over them. And I don't know why I did this because I'm terrible at chess. One of my friends in college, just a normal guy, normal looking dude, he was loved and admired by everybody. I was always so jealous because he had such an easy way of making friends. It just seemed like everyone wanted to be his friend. Everyone was gravitating towards him. And I never really understood why until years later when I just realized that he had such a magnetic way to draw people in with conversation. He had this genuine interest and curiosity in other people, and he just always wanted to know what they were up to. He would never wait for someone else to finish talking so he could throw in his 2 cents. He was just genuinely drawn in to the individual and just eyes wide open, super just engaged. The secret just wasn't in those rehearsed lines that I was always preparing for, but just in the intent of just caring and listening to what the other person was talking about. Studies from Harvard University suggest that curious people are better at forging connections because they seek understanding and meaning, not just information. And to cultivate this into your own daily life, start asking open-ended questions. Instead of asking, "Did you have a good weekend?" ask, "What did you do this weekend?" Or what was the highlight of your weekend? The way you tweak those questions just invite stories and allow for a more deeper dive into that person's world. And as you listen, really listen. Don't just pretend you're listening. Let go of that urge to jump into your own story. Dive deep into their narrative. Ask follow-up questions. And within embracing this curiosity, I didn't just become better at small talk. I became a better friend, a better listener, a more enriched human being. Someone that's just constantly trying to learn from the experiences around me. And that's really the difference between turning an awkward interaction about the weather into a trip with that person to go somewhere where there's better weather. Next is being present. There's a popular saying, wherever you are, be all there. This sentiment, while simple, really captures the essence of what it truly means to be in the moment. A couple of years ago, during a weekend retreat in the mountains, I had an opportunity to do a mindfulness workshop, and this monk just gave me a very peculiar exercise. He gave all of us a single raisin, and he told us to focus on that raisin and nothing else for 5 minutes. The challenge? To notice every detail, its texture, color, scent, and finally, its taste. At first I was skeptical. It was just a raisin. I don't even like raisins. I don't eat Raisin Bran. Raisin Bran, isn't it? See, exactly. But as I immersed myself in this exercise, I was discovering details about raisins that I had just never even discovered before. It was a lesson in being truly present and relishing every moment and remembering how much I don't like raisins. But translating this into conversations, particularly small talk, has been a game changer. Often when we engage in small talk, our minds just wander. We're either rehearsing our next response, we're distracted by our surroundings, or even worse, we're on our phones. And this lack of presence and self-awareness is felt so much by the person that we're having the conversation with that they just often tune out and they're not even interested in having that conversation with you. And I remember the monk sharing a powerful insight with me during that workshop. He said, when we're not present, we're not only robbing ourselves of the richness of that moment, but we're often depriving the other person the gift of our full attention. Being present, in my experience, has just made conversations more meaningful and honestly less awkward. People could just sense when you're genuinely with them and they'll reciprocate accordingly. Next is that small talk isn't trivial. At a young age, I remember overhearing a quote by Fran Lebowitz. "Spilling your guts is just exactly as charming as it sounds." While this might have been said in jest, it shines a light on a misconception that we all have, that profound conversations are always superior to mere small talk. But I don't think that this is the case at all. I recall a business conference that I attended in New York a few years back. I was feeling particularly out of place amongst all the other accomplished individuals in the room. And during a coffee break, I found myself standing next to a very senior tech exec. And rather than just going and rattling off this business jargon about market trends and this and that, he just simply commented on the weather and how it reminded him of Paris. This seamlessly trivial remark led into this very long, awesome conversation about all of our favorite travel destinations. And not only did we have a meaningful chat, but I realized that we had a lot in common and that I just made a new friend and a new connection. But had we dumped into a deep conversation about market trends, I probably would have retreated because I didn't know jack shit about market trends. And by discussing those more neutral, common topics, we had built rapport that we could go off on later. Just like a building requires a strong foundation, Deep conversations require a strong level of trust, and I believe that small talk acts as that foundation. You shouldn't feel like you can't hold your own in a simple small talk conversation with someone just because of their degree. Everyone has their own hidden depths and their own unique interests that you're really going to only learn about if you actually engage them with small talk. I've yet to get in a deep conversation with an executive about market trends and then find out that they are a serial killer, and I hope I never do. Number 4, it's okay to be vulnerable. We live in a world that glorifies strength, resilience, and the ability to keep it all together, at least on the surface. But I've come to realize that portraying this fake, well-polished versions of ourselves that aren't truly who we are isn't the best way to connect with other people. I used to attend parties and social gatherings prepared with these witty one-liners and jokes and introductions that weren't really me. I was simply just always hoping to appear likable and informed and in control. I remember meeting someone at a party who had a very successful business, and I was asking him questions and just trying to learn and gain insight onto how he did it. Instead of bragging about all these newfound come-ups, he was very raw and vulnerable and talking about his struggles with depression and fear and uncertainty of this even happening and just all the struggles leading up to that point and how he still feels like it can disappear at any moment. Not only did he paint this vivid story about how he got to that point, but he also was just allowing us to live in the honest world that he is living in outside of what other people would have perceived him as. And this allowed me and several others to connect with him on a deeper level, discussing our own issues and my depression and all those other things that were very vulnerable and raw that we wouldn't necessarily share with someone we had just met. And that evening taught me an essential lesson in small talk and conversation in general. Vulnerability is a bridge to genuine connection. It really just humanizes you and it breaks that monotony of what people just want to portray when they're first meeting someone, of being just this polished, well-liked individual that has it all together, because they probably don't. But I think that you should always balance a strike with this as well. I don't think that vulnerability means that turning every conversation into a therapist session either. It's about being genuine and recognizing the moment and being brave enough to open up and share your story when other people ask. And now when I feel like I really open up and I share a part of my own personal journey with people, those small talk engagements really turn into something much more than that. Next is practice makes perfect. Imagine you're learning to play the guitar and you're strumming your first few times and it doesn't sound good. It's out of tune, the strings are busted, and you're probably pissing off your neighbors. Both each session and with each new chord, you get just a little bit better. And small talk is no different. The more you do it, the better you get at it. A few years ago, I found myself in a situation where my job required me to attend numerous networking events. At first, it was daunting. I am a very socially introverted person, and it was something that I just feared I didn't want to do it. The mere thought of having to initiate a conversation with a complete stranger was nerve-wracking. It was something that it's the last thing I wanted to do. But I also had to pay rent and feed my girlfriend, so it was a conundrum. But as I went to these events, they started getting a lot easier, and there was a point where I was actually kind of looking forward to them. With each new event, I was getting a lot better at it. I became really good at picking up on nonverbal cues and reading the room. I could start to tell whether that person I was talking to was actually interested and engaged in the conversation or not. And I learned to adapt when conversations started to not flow smoothly and go and pivot into other topics where I felt like I would actually get more out of the conversation. And I would remember some of the questions that would be a hit, and I would carry them over and have them kind of as a toolkit in my back pocket to ask in the future with other people. And I just got more confident because I would get feedback from people saying that they actually liked me and they thought that I was really comfortable and they were trying to understand why I was so friendly and everything. And I thought they got the wrong person. But eventually I realized that I actually had the skills to engage and do this, and it just required getting the reps in and talking to people that I normally wouldn't have if I didn't have a choice. And now I start to view every new conversation like an opportunity. And there's always going to be these awkward interactions that you get stuck in that you're just going to have to dip from. I'm not telling you that every conversation you have has to end in an engagement. You're going to find yourself in terrible situations. I've been in my fair share. And honestly, my magic trick for that is to just pretend that I'm getting a phone call and say, I really got to take this and dip out. That's my special pro tip, but hopefully you have more positive interactions than negative ones, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. It took a lot today. We have people outside doing construction, and they obviously mastered the art of small talk as well. Tell me in the comments what has been the most awkward small talk conversation you've had before. I'll see you in the next video later.
Do you like cheese? Well, why, yes, I do. My favorite's Gouda.